You're muted, Greg.
Sorry. I'm sorry. A little slow on the draw. Road trip to Iowa State, starting on, second games against teams. What did you see out of them the first time around, and have they changed anything second time around?
Well, I think the only thing they've changed is kind of what everybody's changed. They got hit with the COVID-19 thing like everybody else did, and so they've played with a shortage of players. I think they're back to full strength now. We were struggling to win. They played very well. They're hard to guard. Steve does a great job, runs great sets, and they got a lot of guys who can make shots.
Charles Montgomery.
Coach, you talked about a lack of competitiveness in some of your players on Saturday. What are you going to look at to try and get some competitiveness back in them, considering you're now in the last month of the regular season?
I don't know. I'm not a witch doctor, and I'm certainly not a cardiologist. So, at some point in time, I think they maybe ought to get tired of losing these games. And a lot of guarding is wanting to. I mean, I've had guys that maybe weren't as fundamentally sound as a lot of other guys, but they guarded their tails off because they took a lot of pride in it. I just don't see a lot of pride. I don't see anybody getting mad when their man scores. I don't know, maybe you guys have seen something I didn't, but I don't see anybody upset. They just can't wait to get it out of bounds and go the other way. And that's not a good thing. I mean, it's got to matter to you. Everybody gets mad when they miss a shot. You ought to get mad when your man makes one.
Michael Sussman.
Coach, Deuce had an uncharacteristic game offensively, shooting-wise, the other day. What's your message to him as far as bouncing back for the next one?
Well, I think the biggest thing is he's got to stay out of foul trouble, and he's gotten some really, really rough calls. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they've made some calls on him that, going back and even looking at the film, I don't see the foul. But I mean, he's got to stay on the floor more. I think he sits over there. I mean, I think everybody does. You kind of, you lose your sweat and everything else, and he's going to miss some shots. I mean, the guy's been really, really good, and he's going to miss some shots. I mean, think about what Sean McNeil went through. He's making shots again now. It's nobody makes shots as consistently as certainly we would like.
Coach, a question from Bob Herzl. You've had 4 games with Jordan McCabe at the point for 15 or more minutes. How do you feel that is working out, and do you expect it to continue?
Well, I thought Jordan would give us a lot more stability, and I thought he shot the ball really well, and I thought it's hard for him he's got to have an open shot, but we haven't done a great job of getting him open shots. But I mean, I think Jordan's been fine. I wasn't as pleased with his aggression the last game as I needed to be, but I'm sure he'll respond from that. He wants to play.
Justin Jackson.
Hey, Coach, I almost hate asking this question because it's obviously looking ahead a little bit, but
Why are you then?
I don't know. Just I'm interested in your opinion.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, after this game, it is quite a gauntlet, and I was kind of like looking back at some of those old Big East schedules, and I don't know if you guys have ever gone through anything about what you guys are going to go through after this game. Is there any way at all other than just mention it to the guys to get them ready for this schedule coming up?
Well, Justin, as you know, I'm very real with them. And yeah, I brought it up. I brought it up yesterday. And I think they understand. I think they understand what's coming.
Ethan Bach.
Hey, Coach. You've coached guys like Fortson, Kmart, and Max Seal at Cincinnati, and then Devin Williams here. Is there something about Derek that reminds you of those guys?
Well, Derek's obviously a premier rebounder. I mean, he's. I thought Devin was a terrific rebounder, and so were those other guys that you mentioned and others that I've had over the years. I think with Derek, it's a consistency thing. You know, he had 6 the other day, and then turns around and gets 12. He had 18 back to back, and you're not going to get 18 every game. I mean, I fully understand that, but I think Derek could consistently be a double figure rebound guy. But it's like, you know, it's kind of like guarding people. You got to want to. I've never had a rebounder who didn't want to rebound. You know, and I think as Derek becomes more consistent in his play, which he has over the years, you know, he has over the years, I think he'll be one of the premier, if not the premier rebounder in America. But it's going to take consistency.
Kevin Kinder.
Could you have mentioned getting to a certain total of passes as an indicator of your team's moving the ball well and helping scoring? Can you detail that a little bit? What's your goal? You know, what do you need to do in terms of those total numbers to make what you're doing on offense more effective?
Well, I think I probably didn't explain that well enough. I want them to shoot it when they're open. I mean, you saw against Florida when Sean McNeil was open when they went 1-3-1, he shot the ball, and I've been on him every day in practice. If you're open, I don't need you to dribble. I don't need you to make another pass. I need you to shoot the ball. The same way with Taz. But that wasn't my point. My point was the ball sticks. You know, we got guys grab it and fool with it, and then dribble it, and then maybe make sure everybody knows they can dribble between their legs, and you know, and then maybe unload it to somebody else. That's really bad basketball. And when we have good ball movement, we also have to have good player movement. And when we fail to move offensively, when we fail to pass the ball offensively, you know, it really makes no sense if you think about our game and what happens, and particularly in a college game. If you enter it to the right wing, for example, all those people on the left wing are going to run to the middle of the floor. And so basically you're playing 3-on-5. So I would think it would behoove anybody to maybe reverse the ball to the other side where they're not. And the more you reverse it from side to side, the less they're excited about running to the middle again. So they have a tendency to stay on their own side. And that's what our game is about, creating 5-on-4s, 4-on-3s, 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s. That's what our game's about. That's how you score. That's why you screen. That's why you penetrate and pitch. That's why you do the things that everybody does is to create numbers. You always want the numbers on your side. And when you hold the ball, that's impossible.
Okay, we'll go back to Greg.
Hey, Bob, back to Derek for a second. You talked Saturday about his improved foul shooting and how you were working with him. So could you explain what you did? And he sort of got a hesitation now at the top of his stroke. Is that working for him?
Hesitation wasn't my idea. by the way. You have to have your elbow under the ball or you're going to shoot it flat. And Jordan went through that a year ago, you know, and Jordan is, you know, Jordan wants to be a good player, wants to play. And he said to me, you know, what do I got to do? Well, you got to make open shots, man. You know, you're not going to get a whole bunch of them. You need to make open shots. And you can't do that with your elbow out. You can't get the ball up. You know, if you're going to lift something, you have to get under it, right? That's what getting your elbow under the ball does. Same thing. And all I tried to do was make sure that Derek got his elbow under the ball so he could get it over the rim. You know, then the next thing is to try to get him and shoot it in a straight line. But if you get it over the rim, you got a heck of a chance. If you don't get it over the rim, you got no chance.
Mike Casaza.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Good, Mike.
I have two for you, if you don't mind. The first one is kind of a small thing, but the technical on the player who wasn't in the scorebook for Florida.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you catch that?
Well, I didn't. I think that came from the scorers table.
All right, so it wasn't your bench or somebody there that's just keeping track of things? I figured not you. It might have been an assistant or a GA or somebody, but.
Well, I think what happened was he scored and he wasn't in the book to put anything in the book for.
Okay.
That's how they. I don't think anybody picked it up until he scored. Hell, if he wouldn't have scored, he could have got by with it the whole game.
Or if he had scored at Florida, he could have gotten by with it too.
Probably.
Okay. And secondly, Gabe's just in a weird spot now because you're shorter now than you were before without the two bigs that you used to have. And I don't know if you don't want to play the two big guys together as much or if you can't play them together as much, but you have been. And is there a different time and place for him?
Mike, which two are you talking? Are you talking about Derek and Gabe?
Yeah, just don't know if it changes with him about what you want to do and what you can do with him anymore versus what maybe the first 10 games.
Well, I think it was pretty much the same the first two games, other than we started Oscar, but Gabe came in for either Derek or Oscar, one of the two. So he played with another big, really the whole first semester.
And you can do that now. I mean, you had been, but do you feel as secure doing that because there's no other guys there in case there's foul trouble or anything like that? And
well, Mike, understand there's a lot of variables. One being we're coming off of COVID-19 and guys not doing anything for 14 days. That's been an issue conditioning wise. And I thought we were so much fresher when we could sub. And we wanted to like going to Kansas State, we fully planned. We didn't know whether we were going to have Derek or not. So we fully planned on playing Cindy a lot more. But I can't explain to you, Mike, what a confusing year it's been. I mean, we've had guys out, they come back, they're in terrible shape. They can't, they can only play so long. And I think we got accustomed to taking plays off because they had to, because they were tired. But I mean, and it's not just us. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for us. I think it's everybody. It's just been a very confusing year for everyone. But could I play them both together? Yeah, I did. I played them both together against Florida. But then you look out there and, Gabe's pants don't hang down like everybody else's because his legs are so big. But he's still grabbing onto those shorts. When they're bent over grabbing onto the shorts, that's kind of like, without saying, that's the get me out of the game. I'm tired.
Ryan Pritt.
Hey, Bob. Wanted to ask you about Emmett for a minute. I know he was one of the guys you said was most affected by illness there and lost a bunch of weight and stuff. I think he played 12 minutes on Saturday. Just kind of wanted to see what you thought about where he was mentally and physically. And is it something where you're trying to get him back into a more premier role, or are you pretty satisfied with what he's given you right now, minutes wise?
No, I mean, Emmett's been a fixture for us since he got here. Emmett was affected the worst by the situation. I mean, obviously Derek's not back. I mean, Derek's not back to what he was, but he's a lot further back than Emmett. He wasn't affected near as bad as Emmett was affected, and that's what you find with that disease is it affects different people differently.
Yeah.
I'm obviously I'd like to explain it to you, but obviously that's not my area of expertise. So, but that's what it is, man. I mean, a lot of us, I'm looking at you guys, a lot of us could, wouldn't hurt to lose 18 pounds. But when you're Emmett, you can't afford to do that.
Yep.
I don't have that problem, Coach. We'll go to Charles.
That's why you never show your face on this thing, Justin.
Coach, you had a couple solid possessions at the end of the first half from Keadrin Johnson. Is he that type of guy? You talked about his offensive ability, but he has had some defensive play that has really kind of shot for the team on some occasions. Is that kind of what you want him to do more and more down the stretch in this last couple games?
Well, I'm not telling him don't score, but yeah, I mean he's a guy who can put good ball pressure on the opponent, and I mean I think it was never more evident than at Oklahoma State. But yeah, I mean he's a guy who has earned playing time. You come in, a guy like him who was heavily recruited, who was, all kind of accolades in junior college. And a lot of those guys, they don't play, they pout. He didn't pout. I mean, he just was, it was like every day. It was like, Coach, am I getting better? What do I need to do? It was a very positive situation for him.
Back to Justin.
Hey, Coach, the game against Texas Tech, obviously when they made their run to get back into it, it was right after Deuce had picked up his third foul early in the second half. Same thing kind of happened against Florida as well. They kind of made their run with Deuce off the floor. So, obviously what Deuce gives you guys offensively is very well noted, but what does he give you defensively, and how much does it hurt on that end of the floor when he's not out there?
Well, our guards by and large aren't very big, and he gives us a little bit more size. He gives us more athleticism, and he's a guy who makes plays defensively. I mean, he's got great anticipation and makes a lot of plays defensively. So he just doesn't help us on the offensive end. He helps us on the defensive end as well. He's not afraid to dive on the floor.
Last question, Coach, from Keenan Cummings.
Hey, Bob, I know you wanted to bring along City kind of slower, but where is he at right now with his development, and where does he have to get better to kind of be where you want it to be?
Well, I would kind of compare. You ever go to the zoo and see the young giraffes? When my kids were young, we'd go to Cincinnati Zoo, and they walk, but they kind of wobbled. I think that's kind of where Cindy is, and he's playing every day against a 260-pound guy. I mean, it's and Gabe Snow, he's not Twiggy. So he gets knocked around pretty good, which is good for him. But he's got to learn to play with a lower base, so that he doesn't get moved as much. The guy is an extremely, extremely bright guy. He speaks 6 different languages, and they're not all of African. I mean, he speaks French, he speaks Spanish. He's a very, very intelligent guy. So he picks things up fast. It's just, it's one thing to know him. It's another thing to do him. And what we're trying to do is transition into the do it stage now. From the, okay, I know, coach, I know. Yeah, I know, then do it. You're not, you know it, but you're not doing it. And that, that's neuromuscular integration, guys. Train your muscles.
Coach, I think that's it. Appreciate your time today.
Always a pleasure with these guys, Mess. I tell you, I want to get Justin to show his face though before the season's over with.
Next week, Coach. Next week.
All right, I'm counting on it.